So let's hear.
Let me have a small one.
So?
Make that a regular. No, a small one. Trying to think how to put it.
Straight out. I don't mince words with you.
Another one. You know, I get the feeling about you that you're impulsive about things. You don't think them through.
Yeah. Sometimes.
You didn't spend too much time on what you were doing up there, did you?
Couple of years.
Oh, the song part. Well, that I guess I could see, but that other business, the name changing and all that. How much time did you spend on that?
5 years. It takes a long time to conceive an act. You have to get a premise, then you have to costume it, choreograph it, direct it, and then it has to gel until you feel that you've achieved an original public charisma for yourself.
It stunk.
What? My gown? I don't follow.
No, whatever it was you were doing up there, it stunk from beginning to end. All of it, all the charisma stunk. It really stunk. Now do you follow? It stunk. I mean, it stunk. It was awful.
You didn't like any of it? What about my singing? What about my timing?
You know what that means? Stinko.
I'll have a large one. No ice. You're really jealous. Aren't you? Because I got a lot of love for myself on stage. If you had any sense, you would have seen that love and been happy for me instead of looking at it as a rival and a threat to your masculinity.
How could you be so perceptive when it comes to me and so stupid when it comes to yourself?
That love that I got was for
what
me.
Love?
That love that I...
What love? You made a complete ass of yourself. If I had a rotten egg, I would have thrown it at you. Paris. Oh, like a schmuck.
You know what's obvious to me? You know very little about life or love or who I am and what I'm trying to do. And you know nothing. About theater.
You're rolling? I just want to tell you something. I was also just thinking the same thing, like I just feel very relaxed with you.
Yes.
That's a very nice place to start.
Okay.
You know? Happy birthday.
Thank you. 89.
Amazing.
Do you believe it? It
Yeah.
feels like 39.
I'm sure. How did you celebrate?
Oh, Fran Drescher gave me a party at her home. Then the next day, I spent with Elaine May, who was my mentor, and she showed the movie that I did with her 53 years ago, A New Leaf. And I was breastfeeding my son on the set. And whenever the milk came, she would call cut.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask you about how you managed to, he seems very beautiful, Gabe. You just raised a really healthy young man, you know, who loves his mom. And how you and Joe, how you did that in Beverly Hills in the entertainment business, raising well-adjusted kids, because that seems
Well, we
challenging.
lived in New York a lot. We lived in Vermont a lot. And when we moved to Beverly Hills for our careers, Gabe came with us, and I remember the first day of school, he said to me, I like poor kids better.
Right, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And he had like a 1947 convertible, and the other kids had like Rolls Royces and things, Mercedes Benz, and he didn't feel he fit in at all.
Yeah. It was very cute when he was describing, you know, the environment in your home with Joe, that there were always a million people around and you always had guests, and it was like a very animated environment. And that's got to be something that a child doesn't like, but really gleans a lot from as they get older.
Well, it was fun because Joe was fun, and he was joy, and he was love, and he was just unexpected surprises.
Do you remember the first moment you met Joe? Was it like
Yes.
instantaneous?
Instant, the moment when my hand was going into his, I said, this is the man I'm going to marry.
Wow.
I got like a
feeling.
hit.
When I was younger, I saw you and Joe, and it had to be you.
Aw.
You know, and followed you all throughout, you know, your Broadway playwriting and all of the shows you did. So, you know, it's a really beautiful honor. I got to really see that couples and men and women can work together and create together. To see you and Joe working together was just amazing.
Well, we really had to learn how to do it together, because it didn't come naturally, because we were always in power plays, and it was very hard for both of us to surrender, even though we were madly, madly in love. We had fun. Even when we were mean, we had fun.
And was he a writer before he started writing with you?
We went to a Broadway show. I said, well, let's write it, because he was working as a commercial director. I said, let's write a Broadway show, and you'll direct it, I'll star in it. And he said, no, I don't think. I said, well, we could write better than what we saw tonight. That was awful. And that's how we started.
Amazing.
And we just...
What was the first play?
Lovers and Other Strangers.
Was the first play. The first time out of the gate.
Yeah. And we did it on Broadway. Then we sold it to the movies. Then we were nominated for an Academy Award. We said, see how easy it is? It was never that easy again, because then you expect things. We didn't expect anything, and it was just fun, and it was just, everything was a joke, and we had nowhere to go but up.
Right.
And the first time
Right.
we had a robbery, we were so happy. We never had anything that people could steal from before. Now people want to steal from us. We're so lucky.
You were here or in New York?
In New York. First time we had a robbery.
You got excited.
We're happy.
Yeah. And how long after did you write It Had to Be You? Was that many, many years after? That was the show that I saw.
Oh. Wait, first we did Lovers and Other Strangers.
Right.
Then we did Made for Each Other. That was the movie we started
Made for Each
together.
Other, right.
Yes.
That's right.
That was because the part that I wrote for myself on Broadway, they said I wasn't the right type to play in the movies. So then
crazy.
Joe said, we're going to write a movie for you, and you're going to star in it. And because we were nominated for an Academy Award on Lovers and Other Strangers, then we had the opportunity. And even then, they said to me, wouldn't Bette Midler be better? Wouldn't Barbara Streisand? I said, maybe, but I had a bad experience with lovers, and now I don't want to do
Right.
that to my little girl again.
Right.
So I
That's
have
beautiful.
to play it. Then what happened was Joe became a tremendous star after our first movie together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always going to be the actress and the movie star. And I couldn't deal with it. I was very envious.
Wow.
And probably what saved our relationship was I told him
You were honest with him.
that I was envious and that I hated him. And he forgave me. And he said, I'll give it up. And I said, what are you, crazy? And he said, no, it doesn't mean anything to me. And that's probably why he instantaneously became a movie star.
Yeah.
Because he thought it was a joke and it didn't mean anything to him.
Yeah.
And it was just easy. And to me, it was going to validate me and prove my existence and everything.
Right. And were you
Yeah.
able to pick it up where it was when you were creating with him?
Well, I can say you had just thrown a chair.
Let's pick it up from there.
Let's pick it up from there. And he'd say, I'm sorry. And I'd say, no, that's okay. You were right to throw a chair. Or sometimes we would have a fight and he would throw a dish and I would grab one, but I'd look at the back to see whether it was a cheap one or not. If it was cheap, then I'd break it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get that from watching the interviews and
You
sort of
didn't?
I didn't
Oh.
I didn't think they were that exclusive.
Well, at the beginning, when we first were married, we fought a lot. And then, you know, when you're first married, you say stupid things like, get your things and get out. And so then one day he started packing after I said, get out and don't come back. He started packing.
Yeah.
And I started packing, and he said, where do you think you're going? And I said, if you leave me, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
And that became our running joke. And that became then our play on Broadway
Right.
that we did. If you ever leave me, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
But at least I had a dialogue with him, and I told him how I felt.
Yeah. Well, that's what you were saying earlier in the conversation, which stands out for me, is that your emotions and your feelings were safe with him, and that you could express yourself and even say to him, I'm jealous and I'm pissed off that your career is on the rise or taking off and mine isn't. That's a pretty big thing to say to somebody, but he was able to, he understood it, you know?
Well, it was more than jealous. It was envy. It was deep envy. It was, you had to express it, or if you didn't express it, you couldn't be. I don't know how you would function. You had to say it.
Yeah.
You had to say what you resented, but I wasn't expecting him. It was very disarming for him to be forgiving of me and to be understanding, and that made me angry too.
Oh my God.
That he could always forgive me and understand and everything.
You had no reason to think otherwise, right?
But I think, but he just supported me emotionally, even though I was very envious of him. And then he said, we're going to write a play, and it's going to star you. And that was It Had to Be You. So then we went to Vermont, and we wrote that play. Mm-hmm. I think it took us 3 years or something. Kept saying it wasn't finished, even though I said it was.
Right.
So.
Would you get up every morning? Like, how did that process go? Or did you wait for the inspiration to write?
Because it was just fun. It was just fun and games, and you were in love, and it was all fun.
He said in the interview, you're just making me remember, he had said something about that you both complement, like you have what he needs and he has what you need. And I thought that was very beautiful.
And when we won an Emmy, he said, my writing began when I met Renee, and so did my life. And then it came my turn to speak, but I couldn't speak because I felt I could die then, that someone could say that to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't speak. And my mother said afterwards, how come Joe made a speech and you didn't? And I said, Mother, I was so overwhelmed with how beautiful what he said to me was, I couldn't speak. When Joe was dying, I had double pneumonia and sepsis, and the doctor told my son to say goodbye to me, that I would last the night. And because I didn't see any point in living, I didn't think I could ever laugh again. I didn't think that I'd ever have fun. I didn't see any point in life. And then I said, okay, that's enough of that. I tried dying, it didn't work. Okay, let's see what else there is. It isn't like I didn't try. I tried to die.
Right.
I told Joe I tried to die. And Joe said, I'm waiting. He said, don't rush.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I feel like you're such an example. You're like a roadmap for what human beings can do as we get older. Because, I'm sitting here, to be very, very frank with you, I'm sitting here because I feel like your message and your life and you,
Ah.
Who's that?
I wonder who that is.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Okay.
How about that,
Probably Joe.
Joe?
He's here. This bush out there is from the garden Joe's planted, and I gave it to Connie Stevens, and it comes with 3 different color flowers on it that
Which
we
bush are
never
we
saw
talking- this one
before.
here?
This bush right there. Yeah. He speaks to me in a lot of ways. When I'm writing, the other night I had a reading of a play that I just finished, and people said, did you write that with Joe? And I said, yes,
Yeah.
because as I was writing, I'd say, what do you think, this, that? And I would even argue with him.
I love that. And does it come, his voice as a feeling, or do you hear? Or you just feel
Both.
that he's here?
Both. Mm-hmm. Both. I write to him. I do automatic writing. I write to him letters, and then he answers me. I change my pen, and he answers me.
That's beautiful. When I had heard that Joe passed, I just felt so many feelings because I knew how close you were and what an amazing relationship in every way. And when I started to do the deep dive with watching your interviews, you had an experience of experiencing your mom after she passed, and she came to you, and she was there as a spirit. And I thought, that's amazing that you were able to actually come and have closure with your mom after her death.
Actually, I thought I was being haunted by my mother.
Wow.
And Lazarus told me that she wasn't haunting me, I was keeping her here. I wouldn't let her go. So finally I told her to go.
And it worked.
Yeah. But I thought she was here and she was haunting me.
Right. You were keeping her here.
But I always knew that my mother was a very interesting person, that I wanted to write about her and play her even.
Right. Did she know that?
Yes, she didn't really like that. And I always played her as a young actress. I just thought my mother was funny, and I imitated her all the time. I thought she was funny because she cried all the time. If something was sad or if she was angry, no matter what, she just
would
cried.
cry? And you cry a lot too.
I do, but you know, she thought that was the only emotion open to her.
Wow.
That would be
that's
accepted.
Interesting.
Was tears.
So instead of getting angry and expressing that, she cried.
Right.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, and I sent her to see Gypsy, and thinking that she would have some insights into the Ethel Merman's character. Mm-hmm. And I said, "So what'd you think, Mother?" And she said that woman sacrificed her whole life for her kids, and here's your hat, and out with the garbage. Thanks a lot, and what does it get you? She did the last number of the show.
Amazing.
She really wanted to be an actress. And when I had the opportunity, I would give her parts in things that I was doing, but it wasn't
what she
wanted for herself. My feeling that I let my mother down because I didn't fulfill her dreams for me, which would have fulfilled her dream for herself, she thought, but actually it didn't, because when I began to be successful, she couldn't deal with it.
Right. So did you resent your mom for you never having the opportunity to choose something else?
I was
ambivalence
about it, and my mother said, "It's your destiny. You're going to be a movie actress." And I said, "Well, then I'll just stay in bed. I won't do anything because it's my destiny. It has nothing to do with me."
Right.
And she said, "No, you have to show up.
Right.
Or it isn't going to happen."
What was your dad like?
Oh, they were both very in the American dream, you know, about survival and life being difficult and hard.
Right. There wasn't a lot of joy.
There was no joy, and there was no receiving. It was all making things. It was not doing your inner self.
Mm-hmm. Was he affectionate?
No. He was unable to show love. He wouldn't show love.
He wasn't probably taught to show love, right, at that time?
Well, he was one of 8 children. He were working on the street when he was 11. Mm-hmm. He didn't have any schooling, so he had a very difficult childhood, and he died at 42 from...
How old were you?
19. He just checked out. It was too much for him, the responsibility of a wife and 2 children. It was too much for him. And my mother always felt that I was going to be the one that would save her, that would rescue her. And it was a lot of pressure on me. And it was a very symbiotic relationship. And when she died, I had no ambition because it was her ambition. It was false ambition.
Right.
So with her gone, then what was my ambition?
That's a scary moment, isn't it? To realize that your ambition isn't really yours, and what is there in its place.
Who am I?
Right.
Who am I when I'm not an actress?
Yes, I
And I would go on all of these retreats you would go to, that I would look to see who I was.
Oh.
You know, realizations, actualizations,
you did all that. When did you start that spiritual journey? Like you were quite young or midlife?
I remember at 40 doing it, thinking, well, who am I?
Is that when you found Lazarus?
35 years ago about.
You've always been pretty open about talking about Lazarus and your spirituality, which is amazing, because I saw an interview back in, I guess, the 80s, and you were talking about Lazarus. And, you know, in the 80s, he was a channel, and you were very, very...
Well, I was a non-believer when I went there. And I remember we were doing an exercise where we were angry at God and telling God all the reasons why he had failed us and we were angry at him. And after about 20 minutes, Lazarus said, Renee, we're done being angry with God. We've moved on. And so he was in my head and he knew I was still there. How do you like that?
That's amazing.
That was the first time. And then the first time I had a session with him, he had just started coming in at that time. And he had a much stronger vibration than he does now. And I was working at MGM, and I had an office there. I was talking to him, and his energy was so strong, it was like the wind going through me. And I was holding on to the desk so that I wouldn't get blown away. His energy was so overwhelming, so powerful.
Did Joe go with you to Lazarus?
Yeah, he came once in a while, but it really scared him. Joe was really scared about an afterlife, about reincarnation, about magic. It frightened him. And he'd say, you go and you tell me about it.
I get that, because he's Italian.
Yeah.
The Italians are, I'm Italian. You know, there's a lot of, you know.
But he loved Lazarus. When he'd go, he would love being in the energy. But it just frightened him.
I remember he had said once that, you know, he gets up in the morning and he's got to walk in nature. He takes a couple of hours for him to kind of get ready to face the world, and that, you know, you are more like, you know, you like a bat out of hell. But then you said that then you started doing meditation, and you did Lazarus meditation. And then I was thinking, well, I wonder if you meditate without, you know, listening, because I don't really meditate quiet. I have to be guided. I have to do it in nature or Lazarus or a guided meditation. So I was just wondering how you do your meditations.
I just ask my higher self and my future self and God, Goddess, all there is, to help me be a vessel for something greater than myself. I ask my ego to take a vacation.
Step aside.
He's worked very hard, and I think he ought to rest more.
It's interesting you call him a he.
Yes, he. My ego is a he. I tell him to take his shovel and pail and go play at the beach or at the lake or someplace.
Amazing.
And he does. But you have to ask him to.
Right.
And you have to thank him for everything he's done for you, that he got you here, that he helped you to survive, that he thought he was protecting you all those years. He thought he was helping you.
Right.
But you have to say, well, I'll take it from here.
Right.
You have to rest now. All the different parts of you.
And that's what I was saying when I first got here this morning. In watching you, I kept thinking, she has such a quality about her. And it's mostly what I get from you is such an amazing presence. And you were being interviewed by somebody, and I realized what it is about you that makes you so present. You said to the interviewer that I love all feelings.
Oh, yes, I do.
And you allow yourself to feel all feelings. And I think that that's what makes you so, in my opinion, so fluid and so present in your work and also when you're talking to people.
I wasn't for many, many years. I wasn't.
You seem very, to me, like so ambitious and so almost like you're so clear about what you want and how you do things.
I know, but That was my false self. I spent a lot of years in my false self.
And when did you
Find my true self?
Yeah, identify your true self. Can you
Well,
share?
I mean, you go in and out.
Yeah.
You have a lot of remnants. But I spent a lot of years, even when I met Lazarus, who was he who brought me to God, who brought me to everything. I said to him, well, all I want to know is, am I going to be rich and famous? And he said, you are rich and famous. I said, no, no. I said, you're talking about abundance. I'm talking about materialism and the world's idea of what success was.
Right.
So my drive was very willful rather than the feminine of love and desire, imagination,
Receptivity.
receiving.
Yeah.
I thought success was something you got.
Right.
Success was something you grab it. You know, did you get the part?
Right.
Did you get the guy? Did you get the diamond?
Right.
I didn't know that you have only to receive it.
Wow. So that's so profound and so beautiful. And why a few months ago? Did something specifically? Just
start-
along the way.
You know, you realize that when you get to be 89, you realize that you have 20, 30 years left, and this is the end of your life. And how are you going to spend it? And what are your... And I didn't know the difference between an accomplishment and an achievement. I didn't know the difference. But I'm just learning. So that's the only reason to live now, is to learn and to grow and to have fun. And that's all.
And is that the fuel for you to, at this age, go on tour with your one-woman show?
Frankly, I don't know how I'm going to do 7 shows. I'll find out. I have no idea.
Oh, you'll do it.
I used to do 8 before COVID. I did 8.
Wow.
Now I was saying, well, you know, I think 8's too much. They said, all right, we'll do 7.
I mean, that's
now
amazing.
I'm thinking,
7 shows a week. That's going to be amazing.
Yes.
But
talking for 90 minutes.
Tell us about what the show is about and what we can expect.
Oh, I'll start crying. The show is about... The show is about... It's a comedy. The show is about my feeling when I was a young woman that if I was thin, I would have a better life and I would be a movie star. And if I ate like movie stars, I would look like them. So whenever I sat down next to a famous person, I'd say, well, what is she eating? Oh, well, she's just eating a few string beans. And I would eat what they ate. Like I remember sitting next to Jane Fonda and I thought, oh, what a small amount of food. Well, that's probably why she's so thin. So, let's see, I'll have a little pineapple. And I really thought that my life would be different.
Joe, you co-wrote that with Joe, right?
Well, I wrote a book called My Life on a Diet.
Right.
Actually, when I met Lazarus about 35 years ago, my friend took me to see him, and I had just finished writing my book, My Life on a Diet, 35 years ago.
Wow.
And one of the questions I asked Lazarus, you ask a question, he answers it. I say, well, what's going to happen with my book? I said, it hasn't been edited yet, and he said, you can just hand it in because they're not going to edit it. They're going to print it just the way it is. And I said, oh, they never print a book just the way it is. It has to be edited, the pages, it has to be reformatted.
Right.
The publisher has to give his opinion and everything. He says, no, not your book. And sure enough,
Wow.
they published my book just the way I handed it in.
That's amazing.
Well, I have to say it was a crazy book. And I don't know if I would write it that way now, but it was just free-flowing, a stream of consciousness about my life, about my problems, about my goals, about my dreams. And they just published it.
Amazing.
It was remarkable.
And so what you're doing now is an adaptation for the stage of that book.
Yes. It's a rediscovery and an exploration of how I thought as a young woman, my dreams and my goals and how I would achieve them. And at first I thought, oh, no one will be interested in this. And then Joe encouraged me. He said, oh, everybody will. He said, you know, I'm always thinking about my weight. And so I said, oh, all right, well, let's try it. And then I was really surprised that everybody related to it in some way. It's been a very healing experience for me. And I hope it'll be healing for other people. It's between the lines, really. It's really sharing what a fool you are and what a fool you've been.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Because it helps us all to realize that we're all the fool in our lives. You had said in an interview that you had learned from watching James Dean.
Who?
James Dean.
James Dean.
That his power was in the pauses. You said when he was on stage, he would pause. And
he was remarkable. It was in The Immoralist. And he didn't have any lines. It was with Louis Jourdan. He played a young Arab boy who followed him around and emulated him and adored him and wanted to be loved by him. And he didn't have any lines in this play. And all during the play, he just sat and looked at him. And you saw his feelings and his behavior and his thought process, and it really taught me, oh, you don't need any lines.
Right.
You don't need to speak to act.
Very powerful lesson as an actor.
Yes.
Right? Because we're always trying to fill the spaces. You feel like you're not enough.
And it helped me a lot.
Yeah.
When I would have very, very small parts, very few lines, or no lines at all. I remember, you know, when I was first doing The Nanny, and I was in a dinner scene, I didn't have any lines at all. I was just sitting there eating with 6 people. And I said, how am I going to be funny just sitting and eating? I thought, oh, I'll do what I do in life. I'll eat off everybody's plate. And that's what I did. They were all strangers, and and they all looked incredulously at me. And sometimes food would go down me, and I would take it out.
Can you tell me, I want to ask just a few questions about like who you worked with, and I can't help but obviously not ask about Fran. The two of you seem like mother and daughter. You resemble each other, and there's a quality that you both share. What was it like working with her? And I know she's one of your best.
It was wonderful to work with her.
Yeah.
She was very generous, And she said to me, Renee, they'll never hire you to play my mother because they were thinking of Sheila McRae. They want somebody Episcopalian. So I'm going to bring you on the show as a guest and let Sony say, you know, Renee could play your mother. And that's exactly what happened. She brought me on, and they said, you know, Renee could play. And she said, really? You think so? And that's how that happened, yes.
It's brilliant, a brilliant show. Did you know while you were filming it that it was going to be as big as it was?
No, I had no idea. I just knew that it was fun, and we would laugh all the time, and it was just great.
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra. Every day I'd say to him, so you're Frank Sinatra? You're Frank Sinatra? He'd say, yeah, I'm Frank Sinatra.
There are very few people that didn't find him intimidating. You know, just that he was Frank Sinatra. Did he intimidate you?
Oh, yeah, he was just dreamy. Dreamy.
Marlon Brando.
Dreamy.
Speaking of dreamy.
Dreamy. Oh, what a great actor. And he came to class one day. He sat down next to me. And I said, are you going to leave me alone? He said, I'm not doing anything. I said, I know. Why not?
What about Jerry Lewis?
Jerry Lewis. Well, he said to me, I was on the Tonight Show with him.
Right.
And he said, if you're ever in California, you're very talented, look me up and I'll put you in my movie.
How did he know that? How did he know? What did he see you in that he?
The Tonight Show. I was very funny with Johnny Carson.
Gotcha.
I was very funny. Or maybe it was Jack Parr. Jack Parr.
Is that where you met Barbara? Was on the Jack Parr show?
No, I met her when I was booked to play with her.
Okay.
I had never known her before then.
Do you remember what you thought when you first met her?
I thought she was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Talented, beautiful.
Unusual for the time, yeah.
And I said, you're going to be a very big star. And she just giggled.
So you're writing a...
I just finished a play about Mayrus. I had started because someone sent me a play about her to play her. And it was very conventional and not funny. And I said, why can't you make it funny and unconventional? Like this. See,
right.
She says this, she does this and that. And they said, no, that's too outrageous. I said, well, she was. So I said, well, then I'm going to write it. So I started writing it. Then Joe got very sick and he was dying. And I didn't think I would ever laugh again or have fun again. But then Mae West came to me and said, do it. Because she's an archetype. Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Isn't that great? That the door keeps opening?
Well, how is the wind affecting it if it's like
It's like...
Okay.
Thank you.
So anyway, I just finished it, and it's very outrageous, and I don't know. People may think it's too bawdy, but it makes me laugh, and it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And I know they're making a movie about Marilyn, and I always like to hear it from the person who knew the person, you know?
Well, my experience with her was totally different because I was in class with her, and I was very impressed with her vulnerability, and she was so frightened. It was so important to her to be known as a good actress. She was a big star in movies, but she didn't have any respect as an actress, and she stood up in class and she shook like a rabbit. And she was so frightened. And my heart just went out to her. And I met her in the ladies' room afterwards. She was putting calamine lotion on her face because she was breaking out in hives from fear.
Amazing.
And I
Amazing.
just started
And she kept going, even though she was
telling
completely
her
anxiety-ridden.
how wonderful she was.
She was.
And I thought she was a wonderful actress.
Yeah.
We became friends in class. And she called up a friend of mine and said, this is in my play, My Life on a Diet, and said, I'd like to do a scene with you. She says, this is Marilyn. You know Marilyn from class? I sit right behind you. That's how she introduced herself to this actor,
Wow.
Marilyn from class. It took a lot of courage to be with a lot of young people just starting out,
Yeah.
because we would all criticize each other's scenes. And when she'd get up, people would say, oh, I thought she was very tense. I didn't think she was relaxed.
Wow.
And she would just like listen, you know.
Yeah. Must have been hard for her.
Very
she
hard.
was, you know, only looked at for her outer beauty, you know, and
Very.
it's just hard for women in general, I think.
Yeah, but he was very supportive of her, Lee, and he thought she was a wonderful actress, which she was.
She was.
And the work that she did in class was so, wow. But I thought her work, you know, in Bus Stop was great.
Great.
Thought
Some Like It
Misfits-
Hot.
Misfits, everything she did I thought was wonderful. And I think it was a lot of envy
Sure.
and a lot of chauvinism. People think, well, if you're pretty and you're sexy, you can't be talented.
Okay. Rapid fire?
Oh, sure.
Okay. What is your most useless talent?
Try to use everything. I cry a lot. I try to use that. I get angry a lot. I try to mold it into
Something useful.
Useful. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what I have that you couldn't use.
That you couldn't use. Yeah. Okay. Dawn or dusk?
Dusk. Twilight is my favorite
Me
time.
too. Are you coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Are you a night owl or a morning bird?
Morning.
First celebrity crush?
John Wayne.
Who is your favorite actor?
Brando. I could see him again and again
Yeah.
and again. Oh, and Bogart, too. I liked looking at Casablanca. I've seen it maybe 100 times.
Yeah. What movie do you love?
Casablanca.
Favorite childhood TV show?
I didn't really watch TV. I just went to movies. I would go to the movies and sit there all day
day, yeah.
seeing the same movie over and over again until I could do the lines with them.
If you could travel the world for free, where would you go first?
Italy.
LA or New York?
Oh,
Yeah.
New York, because that's Joe.
The most obvious question I didn't ask you.
What?
Well, really about what you feel about the pandemic and how that changed you and changed perhaps the world.
Oh, for me it was a wonderful thing because I stayed home and I wrote and I reflected and I explored and I really discovered a lot of things, and for me it was a blessing.
What did you discover?
About my life, about where I was going, what I wanted to do. I wrote the book about Joe, about our relationship. I thought the book was going to be about, you know, working together and loving each other, but it was really about discovering love and what love meant and how love changed me and how love changed him. And it was really about how to love.
It's so beautiful.
And I didn't know it was going to be about that.
Right.
I thought it would be about working together in show business and how difficult that was and what our life was and all like that. But it wasn't like that at all. It was how grateful I was to him. And actually, the pandemic was a wonderful experience for me to get to know him and his soul and my soul deeper.
That's
So
beautiful.
it was really a good thing for me.
Yeah.
And it slowed me down because I had always been very a fast person, doing things fast, working fast, going fast.
And how do you see the world as a result, in the direction that the world is going?
Just everything that we thought was valuable and all the places that we thought we were going, we weren't going. Inward we're going, inward
Right.
and onward is our salvation.
You know, as I sit here opposite you, there's so many qualities that are just really, they're leaping out at me, you know, and you have such a graciousness about you and such a kindness about you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I heard that about you. You only see good things in other people.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope we'll be okay.
I think we will. I think we will. Okay. Thank you.